All right. So we are the Connected Store team. We worked on our project was called Quote Dashboard. My name is Nick.
I'm TJ.
Amy.
And I'm Hiroki.
So here is our agenda page. Doesn't really matter because we're going to go over everything anyways. So basically, the Connected Store. So for an example, say a dealer has a website that a customer visits. The Connected Store is a tool so you can build all the pricing options for your car. So you go to their website, you select a car, you fill out a lot of finance information, your name, things like that, and you click submit, and it sends this quote or deal to the dealership. And our task was basically to create the most effective way to show these quotes to the dealership.
So the problem is that the quotes are currently displayed very poorly, so they're all in this like comment text box here, and it's just one long string of text, and then it's separated by commas, but that makes it very difficult for the dealership staff to just make out what this information is, and because it's so difficult for them to look at, they don't look at it, and they don't want to deal with it, right? So that's the problem. It's too time consuming to kind of disseminate. And so our users are just anyone who works at the dealerships that are going to view the quote information. And so my task as the designer on this team was to pretty much create the look and feel and the functionality of the quote dashboard. And so to provide a, I guess, kind of statement as to what our solution is. So how might we organize and present quote information to dealerships more effectively rather than how it was currently being viewed in that text box?
So in our project, we have two main pages, the home page and the details page. On the home page, we wanted to accomplish these four things. Filtering and sorting, so dealers can easily filter and sort through all their quotes because they're receiving usually more than 50 quotes. Searching, so they can filter through all their quotes. Data organization, so presenting all of the data in an easy to digest way, because there's a lot of information that needs to be processed for each quote. And have a responsive layout, so dealers can use it on desktop, laptop, and on tablets, which are the three main use cases.
Yeah, from the home page, we have a separate details page where the dealer could click on a certain quote, and then they would see a lot more details from that quote. So we have a big outline of everything that's related to that quote. We have a copying, so instead of like on that big text, dealerships have a problem where they have to like find what they want, highlight it, Control C, Control V, but we have a copying function, so it's just like a one click, and then responsive layout with, because it's a pretty long page, so you could click through the tabs and go to the section that you want to choose.
So for our project, we built the front end and back end API for it. When we first got our requirements, I was under the impression that our front end would just be making calls to certain APIs that were in place where we can retrieve quote data and other information that we needed. But after the first few weeks, I guess we decided and were told that we would build our own backend and our own API that would make calls to other APIs which access databases. So we did all the backend work and the front end work for this project. So going on to the demo, there's not really a good way to demo backend API stuff. So this is just a Swagger page. Basically, it's just describing the different HTTP requests that we're using. So it's just getting all information. We have no options in our app to edit or anything. So the way it works is, or I guess the backend works, you give the URL, you pass in a store ID, and it gives back all basic homepage information and also all quote IDs. And then we take those quote IDs, each individual quote ID, and basically access another endpoint, and that gives back all detailed information about it. And then aside from quotes, we also display leads, or I guess a lead is a type of quote. It's kind of confusing. And we also get all the leads for a store, which is similar to a deal or quote, but it doesn't come with as much detailed information. So, and here, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is our quote dashboard. These are the deals that he was talking about, or deals and leads that he's talking about. So it's just one big Angular material table, and then if you click on a certain quote, it opens up a little expandable row, and then there's more details to look at there that they can't see already. They have a pagination on the table, so they could sort or choose how much they want to see, and then maybe they want to go through each user, so they'll look at 10, then they'll go to the next page, so they're keeping track of what they've already looked at. And then there's a search feature where they could search for anything that they see on the page right now. So, for example, if they want to look at the car, a Sierra, it searches through that, or the name test. So they could look through everything that they see now. Then they also have a filtering option where you could filter through if there's like anyone has an appointment from the dealer for the dealers, and then there's like, oh, they don't have one, so I don't want this filter anymore. So there's these filter chips that show what's being displayed, and then they could exit that based on that, and then they could also filter from whatever they want. So for example, if they want, they don't want an appointment, but they want to find a deal that has cash, then they could do this, and then there's one person that fits their bill, so they click this quote and go to a more details page where they could see all of the detail related to that quote.
And so we just wanted to make this page as simple as possible because of how much information there is. So you can navigate to anywhere on the page with the sidebar. You just click on the little link and it'll take you down to whatever information you need to look at.
Oh yeah, so the problem that was happening was that they had to outline on that comments on their CRM, like they would have to outline and Control-C, but here it's a simple hover over text, just copy, and then they could copy whatever is set there, and then I guess we can just paste it here, and then it copies that text, and they could do that for every single text field down here. So it makes their lives easier, like reduces the amount of clicks that they have to do. And then going back to the quote dashboard, they could also sort by date and by their last name.
And with this homepage view, I wanted to sort of navigate away from displaying it in kind of like a Excel sheet, because that can be very tiring on the eyes if you have a lot of information to go through. And so I decided to kind of display it as like a card almost in a data table, and there'd be only 3 columns, so it'd be simple to read, quick to read. And if you wanted to, again, look at more information, if there was more information, you could click on it on any card and it'll appear with the drop down. But if you were trying to go through it very quickly, you don't even have to do that. You can see most of the information you need right away on first glance.
Right, so the technologies we used for this, the front end was written in Angular, and the back end we used C#, ASP.NET Core.
For the design, I mainly use Sketch because I have a lot of the radial libraries in there, and I used InVision to share my work with the dev interns so that they can look at it without me having my laptop next to them. And I used Miro to map out all my task lists.
Currently, these are all like test data fields that we're grabbing from test quote
Right.
IDs.
So yeah, our API is deployed into pre-production, but as of right now, our API is also deployed, but we don't have access to Okta, so we couldn't, I guess, run the demo non-locally or live, right? But it is deployed, so.
Yeah. And then we deployed it through Bamboo, or our project to Docker image through Bamboo, which if you've ever used Bamboo, it's really fast, so it's really fun to make that.
So I guess what we learned, or I guess what I learned during the course of this internship was Angular. I've never used Angular before. The only experience I have with web dev was a little bit of JavaScript and HTML, CSS stuff. So having the Angular framework to work with was different to learn because of the different components and all of the stuff that you have to learn to be able to use it effectively. And then the back end written in C#, ASP.NET Core. It was not as challenging, I guess, to understand as Angular, the framework, but I guess for the API, we used, or I guess we looked at other APIs for examples, and it took a lot of time to kind of decrypt how other APIs were doing things, and to inherit that in our API took quite a bit of time.
Oh yeah, so I had a lot of fun interacting with our team and our collaborative space, and working with Amy, our UI designer. It was really interesting to see how it works in like basically a software development standpoint, where in school I kind of just hack something together. I'm like, oh, that looks good enough. But then Amy's like, you probably shouldn't do that. And then like, and then working through her like mocks throughout the project, it was really interesting to like just kind of code something that's already been like I could visualize and not like just hacking it together. So that's cool. And then apparently you also need to test your functions. So TDD is cool.
Learning TDD was definitely fun. It was different.
I think the hardest part, or one of the more challenging parts of our project, is that our requirements were very broad. So we didn't have a very specific, well, we had a specific goal in mind, but nothing really fleshed out in detail. So there's a lot of refactoring that happened, probably at least once a week. Yeah. So that's definitely one of the roadblocks that we had over the summer.
And then my main learning experiences came from learning how to use Sketch, because I've used different software that's available on like a PC laptop. I've never used Mac before, so Mac is the only computer that will let you use Sketch, so I had to learn how to use that, and also had to work within a design system. So the key difference between graphic design and UX design is that with graphic design you can kind of do whatever you want, and you can play with typography, font, size, all that stuff. But my constraints were I had Radial, and I had to comply with the standards for that. And because this is going to be a customer-facing product where the dealerships will actually use this, it has to be consistent with all other CDK products that we release as well. So I felt very limited at times as to what I could use, and it was kind of a matter of picking the right components from the library and putting them in the right place. But then I eventually figured it out. And I think moving forward, like I would probably want to do some user testing, because I didn't have a lot of research. I had to kind of conduct research on my own and create my own research questionnaire, and I only had 3 people respond to my questionnaire, so that's not enough information for me to like really be confident in my product. But I'd want to do user testing eventually, and then send this over to the Radial standards team just to make sure that everything is compliant with the Radial design system, because again, it was kind of like, I think this is Radial, but I don't know, kind of cheat here. So yeah, that's what I would like to do moving forward.
So moving forward from a developer standpoint, there is a lot of data here being displayed already, but there is some other data that we would still like to display, such as soft credit pool data. It's basically the same as a lead. It doesn't have a lot of information, but it does come with a customer's credit score, which is just basically would be another type of data. And also, well, I guess that's about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions?
No?
Sounds good.
Cool.